Somebody might help me with that. What Gerizim? I thought, maybe I'm wrong. I thought when they crossed the Jordan, they were supposed to put the commandments there. I guess I'm wrong. I misunderstood, read wrong. Somebody help me.
When they crossed into the land?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think they did it right there.
Okay.
Was that where they took the stones from the bottom of the river?
Yes, took the stones from the river. Right, you're right. Yeah, that's right. They took the stones from the river, and that was a reminder. Yes. And does anyone where this mountain says Mount Ebal in Gerizim or what? Gershom? Where were they? I mean, I like I said, I didn't go back and look. Someone help me there, exactly where they are. It said they were just, I think more or less on the central part. Said, well, they were to recite the curses that would come on those who forsake God's commands. Some of the curses were highlighted in 7:15 through 25, and then we'll look at them in more detail as we enter into today's lesson. First, we look at the blessings the Lord had in store for the people, if only they would follow His commands. And you know, they bring out later on the curses doubled the amount of blessings on the people. I think it was to get their attention. You know, we have what's the old saying? You know, don't touch that stove because it'll burn you. Don't touch, you know, that wet paint sign. Don't touch it. What do we have to do? Got to touch it. And
We had one that had to do it twice.
oh yeah. We had well, of course, my youngest daughter, learned the first time. She stuck a bobby pin on her finger and stuck it in the light socket. And of course, she was over at Luella's mother's, and she said it was red glowing. She jerked it off and threw it. It's still wet. Yeah, yeah. But there was a burn place in her carpet where she threw that bobby pin. And
My brother did that one. I was fixing a lamp.
Yeah.
So I plugged it in, and I was putting the light bulb in it. He goes, "What would happen if I did that?" And he stuck a hanger in there.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, I had a coworker, and his son wasn't much smarter than him, and he took a coat hanger to check to see if the battery was any good. The car battery was any good. It was good.
That's all right. Get burned by a pre-tank, one of those Lone Star gas heaters.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Too close.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the bathroom and I took my pajama bottoms off
Yep.
and then come home.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you know, some things. Yeah. There's some things we do. It just takes one time, to learn. But others, it takes more than once to learn. But now, if we go into our lesson today, someone read verses 1 through 6 of Deuteronomy 28.
Now, if you faithfully obey the Lord your God and are careful to follow all the commandments I'm giving you today, the Lord your God will lift you far above all nations of the earth. All the blessings will come and overtake you because you obey the Lord your God. You will be blessed in the city, blessed in the country. Your offspring will be blessed in your land's produce and offspring of your livestock, including the young of your herds and the newborns of your flocks. Your basket and kneading bowl will be blessed. You will be blessed when you come in and blessed when you go out.
You know, really, you look at that, what more could you ask? I mean, was that so hard to follow? You know, the word if here has a great importance here. But, yeah, if. Right, if. That's a big word, if. Yeah, if you hadn't done this, if you hadn't. And there's so many places we can go there. But it has a great importance here. In this chapter, Moses exhorted Israel to make a choice. You know, we have choices every day in our life. In everywhere we turn, direction we turn, we make choices. The covenant God made with Israel contained three major features: the law, the sacrifice, and the choice. The idea behind the choice was that God was determined to reveal himself to the world through Israel. The Lord would do this either by making them so blessed that the world would know only God could have blessed them so, by making them so cursed that only God could have cursed them and caused them to still survive. Two ways the world could view this. They were so blessed that the world could see that God was with them and blessed them so much, or so cursed that they said it had to be a God, in other words, for them to survive. The choice of blessing or cursing was up to Israel. You know, again, we go back today, the choice it's up to us. It was up to Israel, based on their faithfulness to their covenant with God. This chapter is like ancient treaties between a king and his people. This is Yahweh the King making a covenant with his people Israel. In the ancient Near East, it was customary for legal treaties to conclude with the passages containing blessings upon those who observed the enactments and curses on those upon who did not. That the Lord your God will set you high above all nations on earth. Therefore, if Israel would obey the Lord, he would set them high above other nations. The blessings would be so powerful that they would come upon and overtake. The blessings would. I had to read this twice. I said, said the blessing would be so powerful that they would come upon and overtake Israel. The blessings were so great that they would overtake them and come upon them. They wouldn't be able to escape the blessings. Well, to me, that says a lot, isn't that? If we follow God's orders, His commands, His statutes, we can't escape His blessings. We can't run from them or hide from them. And this is the same with Israel. If they only obeyed God and His commandments and statutes, they couldn't escape the blessings would be so poured out upon them, and that the world would see. The wording overtake suggests that God's blessings would pursue His obedient people. He wanted them to experience the best He had to offer them. Doesn't that speak to us today? Doesn't He want us to pursue the best that He has to offer? You know, I've said this before. I remember a statement by C.S. Lewis. He said, God wants to bless you, but your hands are full. And we need to empty them so we can receive His blessings that He has for us. You know, like I said, He has many blessings for us, but like I said, our hands are too full. We can't accept them. Moses' words were not some promise of prosperity or of theology. The blessings he described did in faith apply to many aspects of life, but God's blessings far exceeded material things. You know, we think even today, some of these TV evangelists, you give this and that, you're going to have all these material blessings to be placed upon you. That's not what it means. I'm not, and I've said this before, I've always misinterpreted that verse, too much is given, much is expected. I was thinking material things, but it's not. It's God's the grace, and He's given us. And like I've said, I was raised in a Christian family. That was many blessings, many blessings. I've wondered what would have happened to me if I hadn't grown up in a Christian home. Where would I be? I don't know. I don't want to know. Yes, but no, I can't either. I can't imagine. Yes, but to me, that's one of the greatest blessings that God can put upon us. Is yeah, yes, yes. Oh yes, yeah. I've been there several times. Or I prayed for this, and I look back years later, God, I'm glad you didn't answer that. Yes, and that's so true. Sometimes we misinterpret the blessings in our life. Blessings.
Sometimes it answers no. Are you crazy?
Yeah, right. Are you crazy? Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. But sometimes we have our fingers crossed behind our back when we said that will be done too. But God, please. But that's so true. We overlook so many blessings that God has placed upon us, and that the blessings to be able to come here and worship freely. So many countries that they have to underground worship underground. They share pieces of the Bible. They tear out pages of the Bible and share them amongst each other because yeah, that's so true. But Moses' words were not some, like I said, promise of theology or prosperity. The Lord thy God would honor the people's covenant relationship with him, with him, a personal relationship established through faith and obedience. Again, this is so relevant today. Nothing has changed. Our blessings have come up on us, but through faith and obedience through him. In the city and in the field, indicated that God's people would be blessed wherever they lived. Some would find security within a walled city, while others might want to live off the land. For those in the cities, to survive and prosper, those outside the city would need to prosper. The cattle in their flocks, the sheep and goats, would multiply, be protected from predators, which were an ongoing concern. The word for basket occurs only 4 times in the Old Testament, all in Deuteronomy 26 through 28. It always denotes what? Go ahead. Yeah, baskets. It always denotes a receptacle for produce. A blessed basket implied a plentiful harvest. The word for store or kneading bowl describes a household vessel that contained unleavened dough. Women would knead the leaven into the dough in such containers. A blessed kneading bowl meant the people had plenty of grain to grind into flour and make dough. You know, we've seen it here growing up. We see the good years and the lean years. This year, you know, we had a lot of rain in the spring and even in August. There's abundance of hay crops. I noticed I bought some, back in January or February, these round bales. Paid $80 a bale. Now they're $50. Should have waited, but I needed it. What do? I mean, you got to get it, yeah. But yeah, like groceries. It's just money, right? Can't take what they say. Can't take it with you. And but you know, some of them I think have tried. Yes, yeah. See, I thought of a joke about this guy that died, and it was well, what do you call it? It was where people would, when they went back to have the casket, excuse me, I can't even talk, would put money in there. Well, they said this Jew come by there and wrote a check and got the change out of him. That's an old one. Yeah, probably a professional. Yeah. Yeah, all the stuff they put in there, it's a waste. Sure, that's why they had grave robbers.
Now they take them off.
Mm-hmm.
The earrings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know it. Usually if you've got a loved one or something, maybe they have the rings on the funeral, but they take it off. And don't ask if they cut their finger to get the... Yes.
Rich man died, went to heaven,
Mm-hmm.
and as he's going through the pearly gates, Peter said, "What you doing?" "Coming up here to my home." "So what are you doing with all that asphalt in your pocket?"
Yeah. Yeah, the gold. Yeah, that's right. Got to think about that one a second. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yep, that's true. Yeah, fixing the potholes. Yeah. But you know, the expression "go in and out" is often used in the Old Testament to denote a man's ability to come and go in the affairs of life. In Psalm 21:8. I also believe it can mean you're safe in your home and safe to venture out. God will be watching over you. You'll be safe in your home where you want to venture out. Children may go out and home. Well, we used to go out and play outside and play till dark. Excuse me. I had to come back in, and I think that's what it's speaking of too. You can go out. There won't be any danger when you go out. But and it's like I said, we used to. Well, like I said, we had to come in by dark usually. Or here when Mother called, and or when she called, it's time for supper, and I got near to the house and I could smell liver. And I'd want to sit down and cry. And,
Get yourself something.
right, yeah, because I had to eat it. I had to eat some. I didn't learn as quick as my sister. She'd volunteer to clean the table off, and she'd always push hers under the plate. But anyway, I think it, like I said, it meant that wherever we went, whether we were in the home, in a wall, they were in a walled city or out in the open, they were safe, and God would watch over them and protect them. And I think another point that God was making here too, other nations would see this and say, "I want some of this." And again, can't that apply to today? That people see us as Christians and how we're not so much that we're so blessed, so much material, all that, and say, "I want some of that. I want some of that life that you live, the freedom that you live with God. I want some of that." And I think that, and like I said, it wasn't for Israel to have a monopoly on everything. It was for other nations to see and for them to share God's grace and glory with them and to bring them to the Lord. Someone read now verses 15 through 19.
But it shall come to pass, if you do not obey the voice of the Lord your God, to observe carefully all his commandments and his statutes, which I command you today, that all these curses will come upon you and overtake you. Cursed shall you be in the city, and cursed shall you be in the country. Cursed shall be your basket and your eating bowl. Cursed shall be the fruit of your body and the produce of your land, the increase of your cattle and the offspring of your flocks. Cursed shall you be in, and cursed shall you be when you go out.
I'll tell you, if you haven't already, read the rest of chapter 28 up to verse 68. What has happened, what comes upon Israel for disobeying. I mean, it's even horrible for us to even imagine what has happened to them. 7 through 14, an obedient Israel would be blessed in warfare. Under God's blessings, enemies would be defeated before the hands of Israel. They will flee from you. Perhaps the best blessing had to do with Israel's own relationship with God. The Lord would separate an obedient Israel to himself, having a special relationship with him. Without this blessing of God's presence, all material blessings described previously would be empty. All the people of the earth will see Israel as a special people and fear them. Their storehouses will be full. Rain will come at the right time. The Lord will make them the head and not the tail. Look at the meaning of. I looked at the meaning of this, and I found what I found was, if the Israelites obey God's commandments, He will grant them a position of leadership and honor, making them superior to other nations and people. I always thought about too. You know, always the saying, "The tail wag." Well, the head was going to wag tail here. Yes. And but now as we look at verses 15, we see the word "but" and "if" rearing its head. There's another one that we probably need to mark: "but" and "if." Previously, Moses had highlighted the curses God would bring if the people disobeyed his commands. Leviticus 26:14 through 39 explains this. He now restated that because he wanted the Israelites to have both blessings and curses fresh in their minds as they entered the promised land. But if the people fail to observe God's commandments and statutes, it will come to pass all these curses would overtake them. Moses would express these curses through verse 68. God was determined to underscore the disaster of disobedience. Significantly, the description of the curses is much longer and more detailed than the description of the blessings. You know, I said that earlier. And I think there's a reason for that. That I think it was to get Israel's attention. I think it's to get our attention. According to Thompson, this was common in treaties of that general time and place. The rest of the chapter is almost overwhelming. The repetition of the curse in all its many aspects was indeed to make a deep impression on Israel. If they were not motivated by the blessings described in the previous verse, They should be motivated by its terrible curses. You know, sometimes we had a teacher one time, experience is the best teacher. Well, that's not, to me, I didn't think that was always true. Sometimes experience is the best teacher, but it's not always true. Israel they don't have to experience these curses to learn. We don't have to experience some of our bad decisions to learn. But I mean, I knew what he meant. Sometimes experience is the best teacher. You know, like I said, we didn't have to jump off a cliff to know that's going to kill us. And we didn't have to jump out here in front of a truck to know that's going to kill us. But living in a city would not provide security for those who are cursed. The book of Genesis uses this word to describe those who cursed Abraham. Genesis 12:3.
Oh, bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to getting to this in Genesis on Abraham, the curse that those that would curse that turn against Abraham or against Abraham, the curse that would come upon them. But here God was saying the same consequences applied to his own people. Those who lived in the field would not fare any better. Isaiah later compared Judah's weakness against an invasion to a cottage in the vineyard or a lodge in a garden of cucumbers. I thought, oh, I got to look that up. Yeah. Isaiah 1:8. Like a hut in the vineyard or garden, it offered very little shelter or security. In other words, there was always a place where a gardener stayed. It's like a hut or a tent or something. Well, that didn't offer much security. And so Jeremiah noted how much tent dwellers sought refuge in Jerusalem during the Nehemiah siege. They left there and said, try to get to the walled cities for protection, though this offered only temporary relief. The baskets and store represented the places where Israelites carried or prepared food. The baskets that normally held produce from the harvest would be lacking, probably because of a drought. This would not only be disastrous for the farmer, but also the people who depended on the produce for their food. Remember stories about the Depression, the Great Depression, and the Dust Bowl. You know how people suffered, and Moses also warned God's people, your fruit or offspring would be cursed. Said the next generation would experience the sad consequences of their parents disobeying God's commands. Israel's cattle and flocks would feel the consequences of sin as well. People needed food, but they also needed to feed their animals. I mentioned earlier, I got ahead of myself, but during the Depression, of course, luckily, fortunately, none of us grew up in Depression. I used to say, we probably need another Depression, but our people couldn't handle it. Not like they did back then. I remember Daddy telling me that the cattle were destroyed in masses because there was no feed or gas. People were hired by the government to go out and just slaughter these animals. But it's pretty gory. But my daddy said that him and his granddaddy had a job of skinning. They had just skinning goats and sheep that were destroyed. And he said it was the most gory thing he'd ever seen. These people would go into pens with these goats with pipes and going in and hitting them in the heads, killing them. And he said it was the most gory thing he'd ever seen in his life. Some of them wasn't dead. They go back but to live through that and the Dust Bowl and being without him and hungry. I heard saying one time, this guy said when he grew up in the Depression, his daddy Christmas Eve would go out the back and shoot the shotgun up in the air and come back in and said Santa Claus committed suicide. And I heard another expression, the difference between a rich person and a poor person in the Depression. A rich person had 2 cars on blocks. The poor person had 1 car on blocks. But I don't unless you've lived through it, we don't realize how bad it really was. And this is, in a comparison, this is what Israel was going to go through.
I think back about how it was when me and Connie first got married.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to my
Yes.
now.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even know what hamburger helper is.
No, I know.
Or
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can still write you 101 ways to eat rice and like it.
Yes. Right. Well, I hope this is, Keith, delete this part here now, but we lived off of deer year round. Yeah. Yeah. Squirrel, Lula wouldn't eat squirrel. She looked too much like a rat, but yeah.
Michelle was giving some meat and one was left and she said it's deer.
Yeah.
I said, I've eaten deer. I didn't hand it to, I've got it in my freezer.
Right.
But in my little
Mhm.
apartment.
Right.
But, I said, Michelle, she looked at me, I said, I was raised on deer, some squirrel,
Hmm.
and catfish, and I don't know what else.
Right.
And I'm,
But I was telling Lou, I was talking this morning. I said, I worked with a guy that he went through depression, and he said that he can remember either his wife or his mother would fix him a lunch. In some places, they would have construction projects for work, and he said I would go out there and sit all day waiting for somebody to quit or get fired, so I can take their job. And that's how many of us would do that. And yeah. Yeah. Now I remember Greg saying there was a construction jobs going on. Was building the school on the schools over in Clean. He said I would go over and say it. And said finally, the guy told him, said I might as well hire you. You're going to come here every day anyway. So, but you do a lot of things when you're hungry. But God set before His people blessings and cursings, and Moses encouraged them to choose the blessings. They would be cursed everywhere. You couldn't run from it. You couldn't hide from these curses. It's like I said, the depression, the Dust Bowl. You couldn't hide from it. I remember Luella's mother. She was in Kansas, Oklahoma. She got dust pneumonia. It was from breathing that dust and everything, and still suffered from it till the day she died. She suffered from that dust pneumonia. But I think these were some of the shortest verses. I'm gonna like to go a little bit deeper, and some of it. Well, I'm thinking we're fixing to eat after church, but we might. Yeah, but I'd like to go in a little more detail the judgments that Israel suffered due to their disobedience. A covenant. I'm going to read most of this, because it came from. I can't think now. Anyway, I'll think of it in a minute. What? Enduring Word. Yeah, Guzik. Yeah, a lot of it came from Enduring Word. David Guzik. Yeah, yeah. But a covenant disobedient Israel would be cursed in their health with tumors. The tumors that were come on disobedient Israel were like those the Philistines later contacted when the Ark of the Covenant was held by them. 1 Samuel 5-6. A covenant, can you imagine tumors and a covenant disobedient Israel would be cursed by the weather. The sky would not bring rain essential to their agriculture. Talking about the skies would turn like copper or like bronze. This would bring famine and starvation. Israel would be cursed in warfare. God would not fight for them. Boy, isn't that to get to that point? That God would not fight for you? Would we ever get to that point that God will not fight for us? That's sobering to me. And the bodies of their dead would be eaten by the birds of the air and the beasts of the earth. You shall betroth a wife, but another will defile her. A covenant disobedient Israel would be cursed by repeated and terrible injustices and tragedies. All these tragedies would bring a dreadful result. Israel would be driven mad because of the sight which their eyes see. You shall eat the fruit of your own body. This is when it gets bad. Horrible. This became horribly true in the days of the latter kingdom of 2 Kings 6:24-30. If you read that. 2 Kings 6, I said, 24-30. Okay. 24-30.
For some time later, Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, mobilized his entire army and marched up and laid siege to Samaria. There was a great famine in the city, The siege lasted so long that a donkey's head sold for 80 shekels of silver. That's about 2 pounds of silver.
Mm-hmm.
And a quarter of a cab of seed pods for 5 shekels. As the king of Israel was passing by on the wall, a woman cried to him, "Help me, my lord the king." The king replied, "If the Lord does not help you, where can I get help for you? From the threshing floor, from the winepress?" Then he asked her, "What's the matter?" She answered, "This woman said to me, 'Give up your son so that we may eat him today, and tomorrow we'll eat my son.' So we cooked my son and ate him. The next day I said to her, 'Give up your son so that we may eat him.' But she hid her son." When the king heard the woman's words, he tore his robes. As he went along the wall, the people looked, and they saw that under his robe he had sackcloth on his body.
Mm. That's going to the extreme, isn't it? I mean, so terrible. It says this was terrible fulfillment of the promises, and he will not give any of the flesh of his children whom he will eat. Lamentations 4:1-11. This vividly describes the horrors of the siege of Jerusalem. There are a few more degrading pictures in the Bible that of a mother who, even during a siege, ought to have put away the afterbirth of her child and to have her cherished newborn baby, but in her desperate need, she eats both, secretly denying to her own husband any share of the ghastly meal. You know, and I'm thinking about this. In other words, she ate the afterbirth, and the what do we think about but stem cell research today? In a way, isn't that in a way comparing to this? There's so many, and so there's so many things that hadn't been proven yet as far as the stem cell research that they're still dangerous. And there was a thing here some years ago. I don't know if they're still doing it now. Some of the women that had a baby would eat the umbilical cord, and it's so dangerous. Well, you know, it's a touchy subject. You know, some of them have to be aborted. They're talking about using aborted babies for that. Yeah, and yeah, right. Yeah, but they said too that there's still so many things that haven't been researched out. There's so many dangers of diseases and everything that can be, and but you know it's where has the people come to when they eat their own child and hide it from their husband so they don't get a share. I mean it's terrible. But you know, it said women so refined and civilized as to avoid touching the ground with unshod feet would not hesitate to consume their own offspring. Many of the horrible curses upon the disobedient Israel were fulfilled in the years of history recorded in the Old Testament. Yet their fulfillment did not cease with the end of biblical history. Recorded in the Old and New Testaments, for example, around AD 68, the Romans had finally had enough of the rebellious Jews in the Roman province of Judea. So they laid siege to Jerusalem. At the time, the Jews fervently expected the coming of the Messiah to save them and conquer the Romans based on God's promise to destroy the armies laying siege. Described their humble, repentant embrace of pierced Messiah. Nevertheless, the Jews of that day were so confident the Messiah would rescue them that their factions fought each other and burned each other's food, trying to be the group in power when the Messiah came. According to Josephus, it was as though they were purposely serving the Romans by destroying what the city had provided against the siege and severing the sinews of their own strength. Through famine, certainly the city fell, a fate which would have been practically impossible had they not prepared the way for themselves. When the Roman general Vespasian, I guess that's saying that right, Vespasian came to Jerusalem, the Jewish factions were busy fighting each other. His staff urged him to attack immediately, but he knew such an attack would instantly unite the Jews. So he held back and let them destroy each other for as long as possible. Vespasian said that God was a better general than he was. and that he was delivering the Jews into the hands of the Romans. Before Jerusalem was attacked, Vespasian became emperor. Well, where'd it go? Emperor, he put his son Titus in charge of the assault. In this siege of Jerusalem, hunger became so great that many tried to escape the walls and forage for food. 500 or more were captured and crucified daily. The soldiers, out of rage and hatred, amused themselves by nailing their prisoners in different postures, and so great was their number that space could not be found on the crosses nor crosses for the bodies. According to Josephus, more than 600,000 Jews died from starvation, and their dead bodies were dumped over the walls of the city. A total more than 1 million died, and 97,000 were captured, with most of the captives being shipped as slaves to Egypt. The promise of Deuteronomy 28:68 was tragically fulfilled. You shall be offered for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one will buy you. This happened as too many Jewish slaves flooded the Egyptian slave market, and no one could buy all the available slaves. It goes on and on with what it happened. If only the people would obey God's commands. If, there's that if again. You know, it should be a lesson for us today. If we will only give God, what's in store for us if we fail to obey God's commands? And this was God's chosen. I mean, and it's to me, it's so sobering, so horrible that the things that they went through with if, that word, like you said, the if they would only obey God and his commands. Got about 5, any comments?
You know what's sad? And my mother hated girls.
Mm-hmm.
She told me
Mm-hmm.
growing up. And I'm certainly glad they didn't have ultrasound back in the late
Mm-hmm.
30s and the early 40s.
Yeah.
You know. I probably wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
sitting here. It's a shame to say that,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Well, we've all thought, I thought, remember the Smothers Brothers? My brother was an only child. Said, yeah, your brother, yeah, mother and daddy bought you a dog. I said, I didn't get one. Well, you got a chicken. But that's true. I think sometimes at one time or another, we always think that we're the least favorite if we got brothers and sisters. That mother and daddy liked the brother and sister better than they did me. But it's just things we go through. Your mother probably thought you liked your twin brother better than did you. Yeah. 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 Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like, I think, going on the Smothers Brothers. Have you ever tried to lead a chicken with a leash around his neck? But it is. It's so, if you would only paid attention, if. And we've heard it so much, the parents in school or teachers, if you just pay attention. And I didn't know it till a few years later. I was something else the year I was a freshman. Smart mouth and all this and going on. And we had a teacher, a biology teacher, he had retired, and a friend of mine after I visited him one day, and he looked at me and he said, I don't know what happened to you between your freshman and sophomore year. You changed. And he said, we were laying for you. We were laying for you that next year, but you changed. And I said, I don't know. I just shut my mouth. But that happens. Yeah. Well, the Lord will take care of things sometimes. And I know y'all think I was a sweet little child, Yeah. Teacher's pet and all that.
I look back at my annuals not long ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading all the things my teachers wrote me.
Yeah.
I always said sweet things, but they always said you were quite an experience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why do they always keep saying that same thing?
Well,
I think you were talking about rocks.
mm-hmm.
My dad always had me and Harold, there was only 2 of us then at that time, go out and check all the rocks before he started mowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Daddy told me one time if I decided I wanted to get in trouble, there was plenty of rocks on the place. I could put rocks in a bucket, pile them over here, and make me another pile of buckets. Take a pile and then put another pile, and so I remembered that, too. Yeah.
Don't ask my children about rocks.
Oh yeah.
They tell you the same story.
Yeah. Same story. Had to carry rocks, move one from one pile to the other. Yep. Yep. Then back. Yep. Yeah, I know it. They grow. Yeah. Yeah, they do. They grow. I mean, you. Yeah.
Hey, so-and-so, can you take this dictionary down to room
Hmm.
so-and-so, and it gets them, they're carrying something heavy and they're taking it and they think they're doing a great thing.
Oh yeah.
They're taking a break and then coming back.
Oh, exactly.
It
Right.
works.
Yes. Yes. Well, they're showing me their watch, so I guess we better close. Butch, would you close for us, please?
Father, we thank you, Lord, for this day. To come hear this lesson, Father. We thank you so much for all you offer us when we decide to follow you, Father. Thank you for sending your Son to show us the way. Father, we're going to your service this morning. I pray you, Father, you'll give the words to our pastors. Please, you.
Yes,
Whoever
Lord.
doesn't know your Son, I pray they find him today.